let's prepare ourselves. So you put your hand over your eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And now over your ears. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. And now over your heart. Just extend your arms out. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. This spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that cooperation with your inner presence will make you rich. Cooperation with your inner presence will make you rich. It will make you rich in courage for those tough things that sometimes that we have to do. Maybe you're facing a tough thing in your life right now. Cooperation with your inner presence will give you courage. Cooperation will give you, with your presence, will give you new parenting ideas. It will give you, cooperation with your inner presence will give you new ideas to make your beloved feel special. Cooperation with your inner presence will make that family meal coming up on Thursday and your braggart brother-in-law is going to be there. It'll make it peaceful, peaceful. Cooperation with your inner presence. You know, this church wants you to be rich in every single way. Wants to be rich in family matters, in love, and in money. We've been working on a series right now to anchor ourselves in richness called A Path to Wealth by May McCarthy. Now, May is a religious scientist. She goes to a church like this, just like in Seattle. And she is a very, very successful businesswoman. She's co-founded 6 successful businesses, one of which has $100 million in annual revenues. So this is a person who knows what she's talking about. She walks the talk. She doesn't just know about spiritual principle and money. She actually creates it. She does it. As Ernest Holmes says, I don't care how many people can spout spiritual principle. I'm after the person who can demonstrate spiritual principle, and that's what she's done with her work. So I'm kind of interested in it, and that's why I've been doing a series. Now, for those of you who are joining us today, let's just do a little catch-up, a little tiny catch-up. And that is, first we're going to start with the word wealth. This book is called The Path to Wealth. Wealth means well-being. Means being well in every area of your life, being well in your love life, being well in your career, being well in your health, being well in every single area of your life. That's what wealth means. In order to become wealthy using this method, because here's the thing, I know a lot of rich people. I don't know a lot of rich people. I know some rich people. I like to tell the truth as much as I can up here. I don't know a whole bunch of rich people, but I do know a couple. And here is the thing about rich people. You can be rich and very unhappy. Or you can be rich and be very happy. We're striving to be rich and to be very happy in our life. That's what we're looking for here. So to use this method of becoming wealthy, of having well-being in every area of our lives, we have to do a couple things. First, we have to develop a relationship with a power greater than we are. You can call that power God, Allah, Elohim, the sacred grandmother tree. You can call that power whatever you want, your higher power. You can call it whatever you want. She calls it the chief spiritual officer. She calls it the CSO in her life. And every morning, to develop this relationship, she has a meeting with her CSO. Every morning, a meeting with her CSO. And she has agenda items on this meeting. The first agenda item is to read something uplifting. To read something uplifting. And it doesn't have to be a long something. It be 2 or 3 minutes of something uplifting in our lives, because it opens our minds and it opens our hearts when we do that. And when we have open hearts and open minds, the flow comes in more easily in our lives. See, happy people are not as susceptible to the sweat. You know, they say don't sweat the small stuff. Happy people don't sweat the small stuff. Happy people don't, get engaged with the awfulizers. You know, we all have awfulizers in our, ain't it awful? You know, and some of you, you're going to go to dinner on Thursday, and you know who the awfulizers are. You know Aunt Minnie, you know which ones the awfulizers are in your family. Happy people don't engage with that. They let it happen. If it happens, it happens, but they don't get engaged with it. Now, as I said, these readings are not designed to make you smarter. These readings are not designed to make you even more motivated to do the work. The only reason to do these readings is to put you in a happier frame of mind, to give you a more positive outlook. That's the only reason. She has a little example. She says this. She says, as mentioned earlier in the book, Barbara Fredrickson from the University of North Carolina shows in her research that positive, happy people perceive a wider range of data, solve more problems, and come up with more ideas for action. Happier people absorb more data. They have more solutions. They're more creative in their life. So the first thing on the agenda in the morning is to read something positive. The second agenda item with your CSO at your morning meeting is to write a letter of gratitude to God, to the CSO. Write a letter of gratitude. First, for the things that you're grateful for that you have. You just look around. What did you experience today that you're grateful for? This phenomenal choir. Grateful for this phenomenal choir. At 9 o'clock this morning, at the 9 o'clock service, we have an 18-year-old who sang the solos. Phenomenal. Very grateful for her. Aaron, are you still over there, or did you go to the teen room? Stand up, Aaron. Stand up. Let us appreciate you. See, we don't have to look very hard or very far around every single morning to find things that we're grateful for in the day. You know, speaking of gratitude, yesterday, under the direction of Reverend Brenda, she got 30 of us to get up at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. 6 a.m. for some of you. I chose the 7 a.m. shift. 6 a.m. to get up, and over 30 of us went down to one of the elementary schools here and gave out turkeys and blankets and jackets. So, yeah, let me tell you, 500 people were around the block waiting in line for hours to be able to be blessed by the things that we were able to give them. Please stand if you joined us yesterday. Stand up. So grateful. So grateful. So that this letter to God, that is the gratitude letter, we look around for things like that. We look around our house for things for grateful for. That's the first paragraph. The second paragraph in your grateful letter is that which you do not have but you want to see manifest. And you write it as if it already were here now. You say, I am so grateful for, and then you list what it is that you would like to see in your life. It's powerful. And it's simple. See, the good thing about this book that I love so much is it only takes a few minutes every single morning in order to do that. But here's the thing. With the second paragraph, you have to be specific. Specificity is very, very important. So if you want to improve your sales in a month, you say how many more sales and how much money you want to get in there. If it's a marriage that you want to have be blessed by this path of wealth and you want a better marriage, you write down specifically, what would a loving conversation with my spouse look like? You actually write that down. I know there are people in the congregation right now who are having trouble, who have had a recent separation, and they're doing that very challenging thing of handing off the kids once a week for custody. And that can be a very painful time in a child's life and in an adult's life. Maybe you're going through that and the handoff is less than harmonious. Write down to your CSO will handle this for you. There's nothing your CSO can't do. You write down what it is that it would look like, that handoff. How harmonious would that handoff look like? What exactly would the people be saying and doing? How would the kids be looking and feeling at that time? That's the level of specificity that we want to have happen in there. And then after that, you read the letter aloud, 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 with emotion. You read it aloud with emotion. Why don't we not read it aloud? Because we're skimmers. We'll just skim right over. No, we want you to stop. We want you to read it aloud with emotion. And when you do that, when you take that time to do it, and like I said last week, go to a private place if you live with others so that you can really emote and do that. And after that, meeting. Oh, and then after that, you sit down and you just feel what that feels like. Now, look, I've had people come up to me and say, this stuff works. I feel fabulous. And it stands to reason. You read something uplifting, you're grateful for what you have and what you want to have, and then you read it aloud. What's not to feel good? Of course, you feel good. You sit there for 5 minutes and just allow yourself to feel the feelings that has come to pass. And then when you're done with that, you're done with your morning meeting. You're finished. There's nothing you need to do to make things happen. Your CSO will take it from here. Nothing more you need to do to make things happen. Now, there are some things you need to do to celebrate the happening of it. So now we're done with 5, and we're step 5, and we're on to the first 4, and now we're on to step 5 of the 7. And the 5th one is expect leads and follow directions. Expect leads and follow directions. Now, look, there's a power for us in expectation. Ernest Holmes teaches this all the time. There is a power for us in expectation. But it's very challenging for you and I to have expectations because we're afraid of disappointment. When you have an expectation, many of us, especially if we've been betrayed by somebody that we've loved in our life, we're afraid to have expectations because we don't like that feeling. It's counterintuitive because we've had a disappointment or two in our life. Now, here's the thing. If you want to have a path to well-being in every area of your life, you have to put on your big girl, boy clothes because you might get disappointed for a minute, but you will live through it. I promise you. It might be the path you have to take to wealth in your life. But don't reject having a desire. Don't reject telling your CSO exactly what you want because you're afraid that if you don't get it, you'll be disappointed. It's a leap of faith, I know. But if you do this work, the faith will come to pass in your life. But you have to train yourself. Train yourself to reject that discomfort of being disappointed. See, unfortunately, the same creative process that will give you your good in your life will also thwart your good because God only says yes. So if you are constantly worried about being disappointed, God will say, okay, I guess you want disappointment in your life. We're going to leave that in the past. We're going to go exactly for what it is that we want in here. Now, here's the thing. If you will anchor yourself in expectation in this 5th step, in expecting results, if you will anchor yourself in that every day for 30 days, it not only will be in your conscious, but it will shift down to your subconscious. And remember, what drives our life is both our conscious and our unconscious beliefs in our life. So if we're willing to do that, to have expectations of results and follow leads in our lives. See, this idea of expecting results, we get this idea, we get a hunch, we get a notion, and we begin to follow it. Here's a little example. For example, my friend thanked the CSO for a wonderful investment strategy for retirement during her daily practice. She hadn't started a retirement plan yet, but she desired a successful plan and thanked the CSO for it as though it had already manifested. She started to notice unsolicited emails advertising companies that would help with investment strategies. She was sure if she was supposed to contact these companies, She wasn't sure if she was supposed to contact these companies, so she asked the CSO for another lead. Within 2 days of asking for the lead, a woman she knew came to mind in a flash, and my friend felt a hunch to call her. She didn't know why, but she called the woman anyway. In their discussion, she learned that this woman had just started an investment group with other experienced and successful women. The intention was to successfully plan for the group members' retirement. My friend was elated and told the woman she had been wanting what else she had been wanting. As a result, my friend was asked to join the group. Some months later, she had in place a strong program for her retirement. She also made new friends and learned a tremendous amount from these successful businesswomen in the process. The CSO directed her to receive her desired good, and she followed it. See, we get these flashes, and we think we have to know what to say. We think we have to know what to do. If you get a flash of somebody's face in your mind, call them and just say, hello, I was thinking about you. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. And then see what flows in our lives. See, here's what we want to know. We want to also, as we work with this, following all of our hunches, we want to keep firm before us the understanding that our CSO will never give us a hunch, never give us a direction that is for the harm of anybody else or ourselves, ever. So if what you are desiring right now is peace in the workplace, and you've identified a troublemaker in your workplace, your CSO is never going to give you a direction to go and get that person transferred or fired. No, you will get your peace. You give it to the CSO and you leave it be. And the CSO will take care of how that all comes to pass. Maybe you really wanting a mate and you really like Judy's husband. You like Judy's husband. You know? Your CSO will never give you the direction to make any discomfort in Judy's marriage. Ever, never. No. Your CSO will find you a replica of Judy's husband in somebody else's body. You just put out what it is that you want for your desire. And for those of us who are in recovery, because, you know, we're a recovery church. We have a lot of people in recovery in this church. For those of us who are in recovery a year or less, you want to check out your hunches, your leads, your directions with your sponsor. You know, because sometimes we get things mixed up. Your CSO will never give you the lead to take your rent money to Vegas. Never, ever, not once. So check all those things out. But for the rest of us, for most of us, we want to develop a practice of checking out our hunches and expecting leads and moving on with them. You know, and yet following these leads can be the most difficult and challenging for all of us at times. Of all the 7, because, see, we want to have control. We want to know exactly what's going on. May McCarthy in this book says there's no harm in asking for clarification. You get a lead, a hunch, and it makes you uncomfortable. Ask for more clarification from your CSO, but be careful. Be careful not to let that be an excuse. If your hunch, your direction is for the harm of no person except maybe your ego, maybe your discomfort, don't let that be an excuse. Move ahead. Go ahead anyway. See, now we've anchored ourselves in a consciousness of expectations. We're moving on to step 6 of the 7, which is to celebrate and notice demonstrations. To notice demonstrations. Celebrate all of your successes, even your tiny successes. Celebrate them. It doesn't matter how you do it. Call a friend and share your good with a friend. What you'll do with them is you'll up-level their mental equivalent. They'll be able to say, oh, I might like to do that. Or put it on Facebook. Or write an email to somebody. Or just jump up and down. Whatever it is, celebrate your success. Now, if all that's too public for you, call a practitioner and say, I'm embarrassed to share this with anybody else, but I'm on the path to wealth. So I want to share this with somebody Call a practitioner. You know, we love to be with you in your moments of trials and tribulations. We love that. But we also love to be with you in the moments of your successes. So just call us and say, I just want to tell you a great success. And let us rejoice with you. But don't forget to celebrate those things. And after you celebrate them, then you write down your good somewhere. Take an extra notebook with you around, or many of us have smartphones now. In the note part of our smartphones, we can write down our successes. We want to do that for two reasons. One is, once you write something down, you have a less tendency to diminish it. You know, when you just think it, it just goes out. You write it down, you have less of a tendency to diminish it. See, this is what happens to us. Spiritual answers to our problems, spiritual work, is so easy, we discount it. But if we actually did this work, the other reason to write down your successes somewhere is because there'll be days when you won't feel as successful as you might. And you can get that little note out and say, oh, today I kind of feel funky. I don't feel like I'm doing very well. But here's what I've done in my life. Very important to write those down. The other things demonstrations can do, demonstrations can be very prophetic. Here's what she says. You can think of a demonstration of the CSO working in your favor like this. Birds fly around a boat in the ocean before anyone can see land, but the birds indicate that land is close. Some demonstrations are like the seabirds, signs that good you want is very close to you. I had this happen to me many times. So she talks about she had up-leveled her professional life. She had gone to maybe co-founding 3 successful businesses to 5 successful businesses, and she realized she wanted a little better wardrobe, a little more professional wardrobe as she went forward. So she met with her CSO, and she told her CSO what it is that she wanted. I want a better wardrobe. And she just did that and forgot about it. Well, she told a friend of hers the work she was doing with her CSO, and her friend gave her a coat, a beautiful coat that was made in London, a very expensive coat that was made in London. And she saw that as a demonstration of the good that was come. It was the birds that were flying around her good that was about to land. Well, less than a month later, her office manager comes up to her and says, I miscalculated your last quarter's bonus. Here's a check for $2,500. She took that and went out and spent it on her new outfits. See, this works. This works. But you'll notice she works this. She doesn't know about it. She knows it because she does it all of the time. Well, you've just we're on to the last step. You end the day gratefully and with intention to forgiveness. If you do this work diligently every day, you get up in the morning and you read something positive, you write down what you want, you write down what you have, you verbalize it, you do everything you've been asked to do so far, you're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to feel good. And now it's time to go to bed. You've done all that. It's time to go to bed. So just before your bed, you go to a private place in your house and you give thanks out loud. Out loud. Out loud. You don't just read it. You don't just think about it. You give thanks out loud of the demonstrations that you've had just that day. And then you say these words, and this is on page 77. If you haven't got the book, we've got it out here. CSO, if there's anyone from my past or present that I need to forgive, whether I remember them or not, I now do so. I bless them, love them, forgive them, and I release them into your care, knowing that you will work with them in whatever way is best. And if there's anyone from my past or present who needs to forgive me, including myself, they do so now, and we are all free to experience a higher, greater good in our lives. Now, here's the great thing. If you read this, You don't even have to mean it. You just have to read it. Isn't that great? I love that. Because if you read this every day, and even if you don't mean it, pretty soon it's going to get into your subconscious. And you're going to start to mean it in your life. See, what happens with forgiveness is this. We think we have to absolve the person of their behavior. We don't. That's not what forgiveness is about. We think we have to let them close to us again. We don't. That's not what forgiveness is about. What forgiveness is about is shaking them off our leg. Get off. I'm not taking you with me anymore. I'm going to walk light and fast toward my path to wealth. I'm not going to be dragging you everywhere I go. I'm going to let you go now. Because what happens is that stuff gets between us and our CSO. Forgiveness is such an important part. See, here's the thing about forgiveness. Forgiveness means if we break down this word, it's for giving. It's for giving. It's for giving our wealth back to us. It's for giving our families back to us. It's for giving what it is we want back to us. That's the beauty of forgiveness. Well, this completes my part of these 7 steps and this book. Again, May will be here on the 6th. I hope you all come back. Bring friends to come. We want to fill this church up to hear her in this simple, beautiful practice. Let's take this message into prayer, knowing that there's only one power. It's the power of love, and it flows through me right now, just like everything else flows through me. Compassion flows through me. Creativity flows through me. Everything flows through me, for it is the presence of God within that is just coming out. I let it out. I give thanks for this. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.